23andMe at-home DNA check is now going bankrupt. What does that mean for over 15 million Americans' DNA data? You better strap in because this is going to be interesting. Over 15 million Americans did the little swab or spat into the tube to find out what their DNA had to say about possible diseases that they could find out and get rid of before they hit, and also to find out about their heredity and family and their origins. And now 23andMe is going bankrupt. What does that mean for their data? I'm Rosemary Have-Some. I'm back again to let you know that you can take full control of your life just by what you choose to put at the end of your fork. So let's get into it. The owners of 23andMe are now being grilled by the US Senate to find out exactly what their plans are for over 15 million Americans who gave their DNA and other data to be used to find out all kinds of things. Well, guess what? If it's something that can be done out of the goodness of so-called scientific purposes or scientific research, don't you think there's going to be a catch? Well, as they say, the devil is always in the details, and this is it. Now, to be fair, 23andMe did state that people who are donating their DNA could opt out to make sure that their information is not being used by third parties.
23andMe promises customers that once they submit a DNA sample to learn about their ancestry, the sample and their genetic information is protected. But now that the company has filed for bankruptcy, all that genetic information could be sold to a new owner.
Does that mean then that there's risk here for people who've used 23andMe?
The data itself is an asset, just like any other asset that a company owns. And during bankruptcy, those assets can be sold off. And there's nothing to stop, another organization from coming in and buying that data. There's no restrictions on what type of organization could come in and buy that data and how they would use it after they purchased it.
While there are federal laws in place to protect your DNA or genetic information when you give it to a hospital or a healthcare organization, those laws do not cover you if you give your DNA to any other business.
However, there's a loophole to that agreement within the terms and conditions of 23andMe that says that they are allowed to take your DNA samples and other data, including your height, your weight, and all of those things, to then provide to third parties who most likely are going to be drug companies. So here's what happened. 23andMe just was riding the wave of people who wanted to find out where they come from. What does their DNA say? Now, this is all on the heels of the Genome Project. If you recall, back in 2000, the entire genome sequence was finally mapped out. And this is called the Genome Project. Scientists wanted to know what each strand of DNA and each segment of DNA has to say about possible diseases that could be thwarted if we know ahead of time. So what part of the DNA strand would then indicate that a particular person would have heart disease? But alas, it wasn't as simple as just mapping out the genome, the human genome. They found that it was much more difficult and they needed more data. So guess what came along? What came along was companies like 23andMe or Ancestry or any of the other ones that wanted you to do a quick swab or to spit into a tube and send it off, all in good faith, of course. The problem with all of this is that people need to remember it's not conspiracy theory when things are being offered for things that seem to be such a great idea and will be helpful to the planet. There's always going to be a catch, a loophole somewhere. And that's the same thing if we look at even Facebook or Meta. They have made it so that everyone opted in. It's like trying to herd cows or wild animals into a penned area and lure them in with free food. Think of the Mustangs. How many people have heard about the wild horses in the United States that have been wrangled in to control them and to also unfortunately exterminate them or cull them, just like deer and other animals. The issue is just like with people. We all got rounded in, or many of us got rounded into the idea of using a tool like at-home DNA testing or something similar like Meta, using Facebook to just find our friends. But it's doing a whole lot more than that. The insidious nature of things like Meta and 23andMe is never surface. It's never for the surface ideas and the surface benefits to consumers. Remember, if there's no product, then you are the product. That's the famous saying for anything to do with technology, where your information is asked for and requested. But the amount of information that is gleaned from what you give is so much more powerful and so much more in depth than we would even imagine. So now we have 15 million Americans who are at risk of having their information farmed out and sold to third parties. And you know who's getting most of this information? You better believe it's going to be the medical insurance companies and auto insurance companies, because hey, insurance companies are all about your well-being, right? That's why they always want you to pay into, just in case a rainy day, just in case an emergency, just in case you have to have medical treatment, or just in case you get into a car accident. We want to make sure that you're covered and safe for your safety. Well, guess what? That information is now being used against you because you've given up your data.
23andMe is on the verge of bankruptcy and might sell the data of its 15 million customers. Yeah, it's not good news. And it's not the first time they've sold genetic data. 23andMe and its competitors sell at-home DNA tests to accumulate genetic data that big pharma companies pay to access. All up, 23andMe has entered into 15 partnerships with different drug companies. A clause in the privacy policy allows the company to share de-identified genetic data with these companies, regardless of your consent status. Now the company might be sold and this treasure chest of data is being sold with it. Users have the option to delete their data, but even if you delete it, the company can retain it for 3 years. And data that's already been shared with big pharma researchers may not be able to be deleted. Right now, 23andMe's co-founder and CEO is attempting to buy the company's remaining shares to take back control.
23andMe has a lot to answer for. They're trying to establish the idea that they're not going to just sell people's data, they're going to protect it, and that the company that will purchase them is also going to protect that information. Yeah, okay. How much do you believe that? Well, that goes to show you that we got to stop giving away our private information for less than nothing, or even worse, paying to give it away. What does that tell us? That tells us that we need to be more protective of our being. And the thing that is so intimately depraved about this whole thing is that you've got all of these test subjects, millions of test subjects that you can cross-reference, you can sell, you can rent, you can lease out that information to anyone that may have diabolical reasons for wanting to have that. That's because Americans and so many other people around the globe have been deceived or have been unwittingly drawn into an entire group and culling area where your information is for sale. Stop being the commodity. Start using your intelligence that you've been given to discern between what is for you and what is not for you. Now, unfortunately, there are people who really did want to find out where their heritage was from, where their people are from, and maybe who their relatives are around the globe. And that's exciting. And to find out what percentage of you is from Africa or from Europe or from other places. That's exciting on a certain level. But unfortunately, there always seems to be somebody who wants to wreck the whole party and do things that they probably wanted to do from the very beginning, but lied to you and said that it was for your benefit.
Why is it with all you lawyers, you guys are always saying, don't talk to insurance companies?
Because they're all snakes. Auto insurance, medical insurance, they're the worst. I'll tell you what I just found out. You know that company 23andMe where you spit into a cup and give them your DNA?
I did that.
Well, I hope that you didn't. And I'll tell you what I just found out. They sell your information to various insurance companies so they can, for example, bump up your rates. Let's say you have a history of heart disease. Insurance company will get that information to determine how much premium they should charge you monthly.
Oh my God.
It's the worst. They have your biological data.
And that's not changing.
It's not changing anytime soon, and all the reasons why no one, and I encourage no one to ever do any DNA, 23andMe, or any of the other companies to test out their,
So it's just a data play.
It's definitely data collection. We're in a world of who has enough data.
What else does 23andMe expect to do without all of that data? And why should you be looking with side eye at the insurance companies, whether it's medical insurance or auto insurance? Those two are absolutely evil in how they deal with people for healthcare. But that's a whole other topic for a whole other video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. And also drop in the comments, what do you think about 23andMe? Are you all for at-home DNA testing? Have you done it yourself? And what do you think? Do you think it's okay for them to sell to other companies, to third parties, especially to drug researchers? Can you imagine? Drop it in the comments. And remember too that I have a YouTube channel that's Havsom, spelled HAV for Victor, SOM for Mother, where we'll continue the conversation there. To your good health. Bye-bye.